To get us really excited about typography, I'd like to share a bit of my personal inspiration with you. When I was a teenager growing up in Scotland, as you can see from this matriculation card from my art college days, I was very influenced by the punk rock movement that happened in the late 70s in the UK. I just loved the cut and paste, do-it-yourself attitude that was adopted by the designers associated with the period. And I loved the whole fashion and music scene. But don't worry, I've lost the Mohican and the scary makeup now. But some of the top designers of today started during that time, including Malcolm Garrett, Neville Brody, and Jamie Reed. It was a time when every young person had the chance to make it as a designer, musician, or artist. This is Jamie Reed's infamous cover for God Save the Queen by the Sex Pistols. Before the punk revolution, it was very hard to get into these graphic design industries. Design firms had become tired, elitist establishments, and to many young designers, it seemed impossible to be able to get into the industry without knowing the right people. And of course, computers weren't available to most people at that time, so the punk designers had to resort to cutting letters out of magazines and photocopying old newspapers to create their own style. It created a really exciting look and made young artists like me feel more confident that we too could become successful designers. It was a really, really inspiring time. And here you can see an example of a photocopied image with just some lettering cut out of a newspaper and pasted over the image in an imaginative way. This is one of Malcolm Garrett's early works for the band Buzzcocks. You can see that his inspiration came from somewhere more conventional than would be expected for a punk designer. Many of his graphic designs were inspired by the kind of information graphics you see in instruction manuals. Of course, this was quite unconventional for the time. Funnily enough, Malcolm ended up designing information graphics himself and is now one of the Applied Information group of designers. He's also a fellow of the International Society of Typographic Designers and is a Royal Designer for Industry in the UK, and you can see his work at malcolmgarrett.com. A natural progression from this DIY ethos is to design your own lettering. And this will make your designs head and shoulders above the ones that rely on standard computer-based fonts. Going back to the story about me as a teenager in Aberdeen, I couldn't afford to buy posters or records from my favourite musicians, so I used to create my own. In my bedroom, I would faithfully copy the letter forms and logos used by the bands to create my own posters, and you can see an example of one of the posters I created here. I lost myself in this process, and as a result, I found a real love for hand-drawn lettering. And this is one of the things that I hope to pass on to you in this workshop. The way to perfection is to hone your craft, to get lost in it and obsess with it as if it was a love affair. And I find that coming back to things and reworking them forces me to analyse them and helps me discover what works and what doesn't. It's only after the fourth or fifth visit that I really feel that my work is approaching a level of satisfaction that I'm happy with. When I began studying at art college, I found that tracing letter forms by hand was a very useful exercise, and you can see an example of that here. We used what's known as a grant projector to enlarge letters from magazines. We then traced the letters and created individual designs around each of the letters of the alphabet and combined them to create different shapes. It was a great way of getting to know the shapes. As an alternative to the grant projector, you can try using a photocopier to enlarge the text or try printing it out from your computer. Hand-drawn text has a lovely, raw, informal quality that's harder to achieve using computer-generated fonts. And manipulating the text in this way gives your creativity a good workout and can also be very therapeutic.